Coming up on the Vegas Nation Draft Preview Show, we'll take a look at who the Raiders could pick number 17 overall in the 2021 NFL Draft. We'll break down how last year's class did as the first rookies to play in Las Vegas, and we'll hear from one of those rookies as he describes what it was like to get the call from the Raiders.
Got the call, and everybody started yelling around me. I was like, y'all don't even know who this is. But it was Coach Gruden. He was on the phone.
The Vegas Nation Draft Preview Show, sponsored by the South Point Sportsbook, kicks off right now. Welcome in, football fans, to the Vegas Nation Draft Preview Show. Cassie, Soto here at the South Point Sportsbook. We have a loaded show for you, including all things Raiders and the 2021 NFL Draft. Joining me to break it all down is Las Vegas Review-Journal sports writer Sam Gordon. Sam, appreciate you being here with me.
My pleasure, Cassie. It's great to be here, and it's so great to talk football with you again. This year, the Raiders have 8 draft picks, and there's a bunch of talent on both sides of the ball that they can go after this year, and frankly, they need talent after an 8-8 season.
That's right. Well, let's go ahead and get to it and take a look at a few of the prospects the Raiders could have their eyes on this year. NFL writer Adam Hill is at Allegiant Stadium with more.
The Raiders will select number 17 in the first round of this draft, and they have plenty of options for where to go with this pick. The Raiders need talent pretty much everywhere, so I wouldn't rule out any position completely. Certainly, they've got a ton of young receivers, but if one of these top receivers in the draft falls, I know the Raiders would probably be interested in that. If you look on the defensive side, edge rusher, still a need, even though they invested in the defensive line, in particular Yannick Ngakoue to be an edge rusher in the offseason. Defensive tackle, we know they still need some depth there, so that might be a possibility. That would be Christian Barmore, really the only guy near the top of the draft. You could also look safety. That would fill a need. Javon Holland, the number 1 safety prospect in the draft, he seems to be a guy that would fit in well with what this Gus Bradley defense would do. So I would look all over the field for possibilities for the Raiders, depending on how this first round plays out. But we've all been talking about offensive tackle for so much of this last couple of months, ever since the free agency period, with the Raiders trying to get younger and cheaper, more importantly, on the offensive line. We've kind of all circled in on offensive tackle, and there are plenty of them in this draft. We would certainly expect Penei Sewell from Oregon to be gone very early here in the first round. Rashawn Slater from Northwestern, another guy that you would expect to be gone fairly early. The third guy for me, and for a lot of people that are analyzing this draft, Christian Darasoff from Virginia Tech. He is a very, very good player, the kind of player you could pair up with Colton Miller at offensive tackle and be the bookends for years to come. That would be a guy I'm zeroing in on here with that 17th pick in the first round, if he's available. Some other options, if they maybe fall, Elijah Vera Tucker, maybe a little bit of a reach at 17, but he could be a possibility as well. Tevin Jenkins from Oklahoma State as well. But Christian Darasoff, that's the guy I'm zeroing in on with the number 17 pick for the Raiders. Sam and Cassie, back to you.
Thank you so much, Adam. Well, those are just a few of the prospects the Raiders could go after on Thursday, again with that number 17 spot. But Sam, I'm wondering if you think Adam left anyone out. Is there anyone else you think the Raiders have their eyes on this year?
I think Adam covered a number of the top prospects that the Raiders can consider, and I really think it starts and ends for the Raiders at that 17 spot at 2 positions, right? If they decide to draft for need, and those needs are right tackle and free safety. And Adam touched on the top free safety prospect out of TCU, Javon Holland, would be a big-time player. He's a top free safety prospect in the draft. He comes into that secondary. He's a day 1 starter. We saw what a guy like Antoine Winfield did for the Buccaneers as a rookie starter, how he changed that defense. Maybe he has the same effect for the Raiders if they elect to go that route. But I'm a little bit more partial to offensive line. And Adam touched on Christian Darasoff. He's the top right tackle, one of the top right tackle prospects, probably the top one that's going to be there when the Raiders pick. Now, if he's still there, I think that'd be a big-time move. You solidify your right tackle spot after extending Colton Miller. You bookend your tackles, you build out your offensive line, and you solidify what you want to do offensively. If he's gone, you could go with Tevin Jenkins out of Oklahoma State. You could go with Elijah Vera Tucker out of USC. So there's a number of options the Raiders have. But their 2 big needs, it's not a secret, free safety, right tackle. I expect them to address those if they decide to stay at number 17.
Definitely a lot of talent. Hopefully they hit on it this year, Sam, most importantly. Well, here's something neat for Raiders fans. Allegiant Stadium is now offering tours of the facilities to the public. If you've been wanting to get inside the 65,000-seat home of the Las Vegas Raiders, now is your chance. Public tours have been made available on Allegiant Stadium's website. The guided tour takes about 75 minutes to complete and includes stops in private suites and club spaces, the broadcast booth, the press conference area, locker rooms, and of course, the Al Davis Memorial Torch. Fans are also able to get access to the field. According to the stadium's website, tour packages start at $59, or fans can purchase an upgraded tour for $80. That includes a drink with a view near the torch.
Well, still a lot more to discuss, but we are going to take a quick break. When we come back, we will see how last year's draft class graded out. Stay with us.
No matter who the Raiders draft over the next several days, no matter what the class looks like at week's end, there's no chance it can be less productive than what we saw out of 2020.
Welcome back to the Vegas Nation Draft Preview Show. Cassie, Soto, and Sam Gordon here with you at the South Point Sportsbook. We've discussed a few of the names the Raiders could pick up in this year's draft, but let's rewind real quick, shall we, Sam?
Yeah, let's do it, Cassie. Sports columnist Ed Graney graded the 2020 NFL draft class for the Raiders. Let's see what he came up with.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Well, let's leave it at this. No matter who the Raiders draft over the next several days, no matter what the class looks like at week's end, there's no chance it can be less productive than what we saw out of 2020. The Raiders last year drafted 7 players, and let's be honest, very few, if any of them, had much of an impact on what happened in an 8-8 season. Let's look at some numbers that Pro Football Focus put out on grades and ratings for last year's draft class. Consider all of this. Wide receiver Henry Ruggs, first round, 123 out of 127 players at his position across the NFL. Cornerback Damon Arnett, first round, 116 out of 121. Wide receiver Brian Edwards, third round, played an average of just 16 snaps per game. John Simpson, fourth round, a 40.1% grade on pass blocking and just 45.8 overall. Cornerback Amik Robertson, a 42.2 overall rating, only played 70 snaps all season. Lynn Bowden Jr., the Joker, third round, traded to Miami in September. Linebacker Tanner Muse, third round, never saw a snap, season-ending toe surgery. Sure, there were some injury and COVID issues, but as a whole, this group did very little in the grand scheme of that season. You just can't have an entire class come up this short and expect to display quality depth across your entire football team. Now, there's always the chance that a few or several of these names have improved exponentially over the offseason and will make a much bigger difference this coming season. But there's also a great chance the Raiders this year will draft a better, deeper, more productive, impactful class. Let's be honest, guys. I mean, how can't they? Back to you, Cassie and Sam.
Thank you so much, Ed. Well, Sam, you and I will probably never know what it's like to be in an NFL war room, but we can pretend.
Yes, we certainly can. And our colleague, Raiders beat writer Vinny Bonsignore, did just that and put on his general manager hat for us and with his own mock draft. Let's see who he picked.
Thanks, Sam and Cassie. Well, as we inch closer to the 2021 NFL draft, the question of the day is, what direction do the Raiders take with their first-round pick, number 17, and their second-round pick, number 48? And there's some decision makers right behind me that are trying to whittle it down on what exactly they're going to do at number 17 and number 48. But guess what? We're going to make the decision for them. At number 17, we're going to play it safe and go with the right tackle. Obviously, the Raiders reshuffling their offensive line during the offseason created a huge hole at right tackle. Christian Darasoff, the left tackle who will play right tackle for the Raiders from Virginia Tech, is the pick at number 17. A guy that's going to solidify that position for the next 5 years and, oh, by the way, could switch over to the left side in 5 years when Colton Miller decides whether to stay with the Raiders or move on after his second contract runs out. That brings us to number 48. We all know that the Raiders have a huge need at free safety. I'm going to throw a little bit of a curveball. I am going for the free safety, but it's Javon Holland from the University of Oregon, by way of Oakland, California, by the way. Javon Holland didn't play last year, 2020, opted out of the Oregon season due to COVID-19 concerns, but coming into the season, he was the definitive best safety prospect for the NFL draft. He did not forget how to play football because he didn't play last year, and he can play in the slot. He can play that deep safety center field position in that cover 3 that Gus Bradley, the new Raiders defensive coordinator, prefers. He can play all over the field. He can rush the passer. He can cover in zone, man-to-man. He's a ball hawk. Javon Holland, the safety from Oregon, at pick number 48. There you have it. Back to you guys.
Great stuff, Vinny. Thank you so much. But let's go ahead and hear from the man himself, Raiders general manager Mike Mayock.
Coaches look at, what gets us better. I think the mindset has to be that depending on how you set it up in advance and then how the board starts to fall away. Obviously, the further you are away from number one, the more multiplication and different numbers come into play. So at 17, you're sitting there and you're going, okay, I think the board's going to fall a certain way, and how are we going to react? If it doesn't fall that way, is there a way to get out? Is there a way to go back? Okay, and I think a lot of GMs around the league are making calls right now. Hey, you a willing partner? What do you think? Conversely, if you're sitting at 17 and a guy who you think is going to go, 8 to 10 or 12, somebody who you really like that fits what you do starts to slide a little bit, you've got to be willing to say, are we willing to take the chance to give up some draft capital to go get a specific guys? And I've said this before, I think you got to be nimble. You got to be willing to go either way, and as the draft develops, make those decisions. Obviously in free agency, whether it's the quote normal free agency period or what you've done on the street in the prior year, you're trying to set yourself up in the draft so that you can take the best player you can take. And we're very aware of our needs, and obviously when the needs fit up with where you are in the draft board, that's awesome. And when they don't, you got to be a little careful.
We are going to take another quick break, but when we come back, we will hear from one of last year's draft picks and what it was like to get the call from the Raiders.
It's Coach Gruden with the Las Vegas Raiders, man. How's it going? We just made a trade up in the draft here to select you. You want to be a Las Vegas Raider? All right, man. We're fired up.
Thanks so much for joining us here for the Vegas Nation Draft Preview Show inside of the South Point Sportsbook. I'm Cassie Soto.
And I'm Sam Gordon. And Cassie, last year's draft class was unlike any other because it was the first for the Las Vegas Raiders.
That's
Keyword
right.
Las Vegas. Our own Heidi Fang sat down virtually with guard John Simpson to discuss the moment he was drafted by the Raiders last year.
I want to go back. What was that like for you last year going through the draft process of 2020?
Last year, I kind of just, it was very weird, to say the least, because of COVID. But I was fortunate enough to have pro day. Our pro day was like the last pro day that they had. And then before that, we had the combine and stuff like that. So I was fortunate enough to have both of those things, and was able to, participate and show my ability.
When you go back and you look at what life was like as a rookie coming into the NFL, what was that like for you?
My rookie season was definitely a rocky one. But I mean, everyone has their different courses or whatever. Mine was a little crazy for me, to say the least, because growing up and stuff like that, football was always easy. It always came easy. Like mentally, it wasn't as challenging and stuff like that. So just last year was just like, wow, it's the real deal. So I just had to really grasp that concept and just know that, look, this ain't middle school, high school, college anymore. This is big boy league. So I really just had to overcome that, and then I think I was doing pretty good.
When you got the call, who was it that it was on the phone with you? Was it Mayock? Was it Gruden? What was it like? Walk me through it.
It was Coach Gruden.
It's Coach Gruden with the Las Vegas Raiders, man. How's it going?
And it was the third day, and I watched the whole second day, and I was kind of like discouraged. I was like, well, if I ain't going yet, then I don't know. I ain't going. I woke up that morning, went to go work out. I was like, look, somebody got to do something. So I went to go work out or whatever, just to get my mind off of it. Came back home. My dad actually started cutting my hair. Got a haircut from my dad, and I was still sitting in the chair. Got the call, and everybody started yelling around me. I was like, y'all don't even know who this is. But it was Coach Gruden. He was on the phone. He told me I was going to be a Las Vegas Raider. So
How are you going to build upon last season?
My goal is this year just to be better than I was last year. It's kind of simple, but I just want to be the best version of me that I could possibly be. I'm not really trying to compare myself to anyone else this year. I'm just do whatever it takes for me to, be my best, because my best isn't going to be the same as everyone else's best. So I just want to push myself to be as good as I can be.
Sam, you love to hear those kinds of stories and what it was like to get the call from an NFL team on draft day. And as I understand it, Sam, a few Las Vegas prospects could be getting a similar call of their own this week.
Yeah, that's right, Cassie. Las Vegas will be nicely represented in this year's draft. There's 3 native Las Vegans that could be selected, giving the city an ever-growing presence in the NFL. And with that in mind, let's start with the top local prospect. That would be Brevin Jordan. The Bishop Gorman graduate turned Miami star is one of the top tight end prospects in this year's draft and could be picked as soon as the second day. Now, he's 6'2", 247 pounds. He's a fluid route runner. He can block, and he posted 38 receptions for 576 yards and 7 touchdowns in 2020 as a junior for the Hurricanes. He's a guy that can come in right away and, depending on the situation, can make a day-one impact and be a guy that you can develop long-term. And when you look at other guys from Las Vegas, let's go to Centennial alum Ramondre Stevenson, bruising running back at Oklahoma, probably a day-3 pick, 665 yards in 2020, including 186 in his collegiate finale against Florida. At 6 feet, 230 pounds, he's a physical, powerful runner, I think best suited as a complementary kind of back in a deeper backfield with multiple kinds of running backs. And then finally, Tony Fields, the second, formerly of Desert Pines, also possible late-round pick. Former Jaguar star, was a tackling machine, first at Arizona, then at West Virginia, where he was an all-conference player in 2020 after totaling 88 tackles. He's fast, he's physical, maybe a little undersized, but he's going to have his opportunity, Cassie, to play in the NFL. He was far too productive to not at least get some looks from some scouts and some general managers. So really excited to see where those 3 guys end up as they represent for the 702.
Put the 702 on the map here, Sam, this year. The great stuff there. You love to see local kids getting drafted. We are going to take one more break, but when we come back, we'll hear from Raiders owner Mark Davis and his excitement for the 2022 NFL Draft.
There's no question about it. This city knows how to put on an event. There's nothing like it. And then, you know, coupled with the NFL's ability to build up the draft the way they do.
The Review-Journal was recently given behind-the-scenes access to the Raiders headquarters in Henderson. Team president Mark Bedane guided the tour.
The studio that will take you down to see is state-of-the-art and allows us to produce all the content that we're able to produce for our local broadcast partners and all of our digital platforms. And to have that available for the players and coaches, they can just walk up one flight of stairs and they're in the state-of-the-art studio. It's great. The building you're in right now is the largest indoor facility in the league. Most teams that do have an indoor facility maybe have one field or a little bit longer for some drills. We went 150 yards. We're also 108 feet high, so that you could simulate every single play. So a punt can't hit the ceiling at 108 feet. We wanted to make sure that if we're going to build it, we're going to build it right. And we're not going to have any regrets or want to go back and redo it. You can see behind me here, the facility was built. It's got about an extra 15 feet on the sides, so that way you could put bleachers and stands down there and probably fit maybe 1,000 people in here. So that's a plan for the future if we're able to open up practices or have other events in here, have high school games or other things, to utilize this space for more than just the team's practice and allow the community in to see the practice as well, or utilize it for other events. One thing that was an advantage for us from a size standpoint is when we had to modify everything because of the COVID restrictions and how you needed to set rooms up so that the players could meet with their coaches but still maintain the physical distancing needs that the league required, the NFLPA required. This space became essentially a common ground for all of them, and so that was an advantage for us.
You know, Al had the vision of having all of this new city, everything Raiders. You know, how do you feel like this aligned with his vision of what he wanted?
Look, he was always about what was the best situation for the players. It was always about winning. So whatever we were tasked with doing was always with the players' comfort and the players' performance in mind. So I think he would be very impressed with this, and he would like the fact that they have everything at their fingertips and they have a state-of-the-art facility. It minimizes the distraction and allows them to concentrate on playing good football and getting to be better football players. I think they've been blown away from it from the first day they walked in here, and it's a great place for them to come to work. They have a lot of space, they have a lot of room, they have everything they need. We consulted with a few of them when we were building certain parts of this as well as the stadium, and so when they provided feedback, we were able to make those changes if there were any that they wanted made, and they're enjoying it. How's that? Yeah, you see a lot of them around.
As we wrap up our show, we cannot forget to mention that this time next year, the NFL draft should be taking place right here in Las Vegas.
That's right, Cassie. We all know the 2020 NFL draft was supposed to be held in Las Vegas. And even though the coronavirus pandemic put a pause on that, the NFL did agree to give Vegas another shot and give the city its day in the sun, the NFL draft sun.
That's right. Well, the Review Journal recently sat down with Raiders owner Mark Davis, and he told us how excited he is for Las Vegas to get its spotlight moment finally and enjoy this historic opportunity.
It's going to be exciting, but again, it's one of the ancillary benefits of bringing the Raiders and the National Football League to Las Vegas. Those are the things that a lot of people didn't understand, that we were bringing more than just a football team. We were bringing an army, and with the NFL and everything else. I'm excited as heck about it because I saw the plans for last
time.
And it would have been just an outrageous weekend, and I think it's going to happen again.
You're hoping it comes off that way?
Oh, it will.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. This city knows how to put on an event. There's nothing like it. And then, coupled with the NFL's ability to build up the draft the way they do, it's going to be a marriage made in heaven.
Well, that'll do it for our Vegas Nation draft preview show. Thank you so much for watching. And Sam Gordon, thank you so much for joining me.
Cassie, my pleasure. This is one of the best weeks, not just in football, but in all of sports. We find out how these teams are going to shape their futures moving forward. Excited to see not only what the Raiders do, but how the rest of the league takes shape this weekend at the NFL draft. Really excited. A lot of moving parts. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm going to be out there, actually, this weekend in Cleveland to catch up on all the festivities. So super excited about that as well.
Sam will be in Cleveland. Give him a follow at @BySamGordon on Twitter. He'll bring us the latest content. Until then, check us out at VegasNation.com for all of your Raiders coverage. For Sam Gordon, I'm Cassie Soto. Thank you so much for watching.
We hope you enjoyed the Vegas Nation Draft Preview Show, sponsored by the South Point Sportsbook.